Now I'm getting a message that another person is entering the waiting room. I've got an interview scheduled in about an hour, but apparently they've mistaken the time difference. Let me just
put them on. Put them on,
yeah,
and I'll
I'll put her
interview
on.
them.
Let's see if she's here. Hey, Jessica.
Hello.
Believe it or not, I think you got your timing wrong. We're off for about an hour, but say hello to John Doe from the band X.
Hello. Oh,
Hey,
I
Jessica.
see.
How's it going?
Sorry to interrupt.
Let's just talk about like what we've been doing. You know, do you have any home improvements or cooking tips?
Any projects? No, I suck at cooking. Sorry.
Oh,
Well,
man.
that's all right.
Here, I'll.
So,
What
can we do
time
this
is?
in 1 hour? Is that cool?
Of course.
Very
Okay,
good. Thank you very much
have a
for
nice-
understanding.
See you, Jessica.
Nice seeing you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, there you go. That's never happened before. The new album, Alphabetland, I'm loving it. And the
Good.
best thing about it is it rocks, you know?
Yes. Well, that's what we do.
That is what you do. And I'm glad to see you're still doing it. And I know there was some, you know, because you guys have been back together doing your thing, touring for quite a while, but it took a while to finally agree on recording. What was that process like?
The recording process was a little different and very interesting because Billy and DJ had a lot more. They had a lot more to say. I think because of maybe their experiences with recording their own stuff and Billy recording other bands. So it was much more of a group effort. And the reason it took us so long is because we just didn't have. We're pretty project oriented. You know,
Right.
We didn't have a record label, we didn't have a producer, and so why would you spend all that time and effort writing and rehearsing and having new songs ready if you didn't have any place to put them?
Right, right.
So I don't feel bad about that. I just feel like that's smart. That's the way that I work, you know, and I think it's a good way to work. To have it gives you a reason to do something, and yeah, once we worked with Rob Schnaff on the Live in South America record. That
Right.
was in 2017, I think. We realized that he understood the band and he wasn't going to try to make it something different. And he was good with making sounds and his honest approach to what he had.
Right, right, right. So, I mean, a lot has been made about the fact that this is the first time the four original folks have been in the studio for like 35 years, and it's the 40th anniversary of Los Angeles. But for you four, what was the vibe like? Actually, were you together in the studio? Were you recording all over the place? How did it happen?
Oh no, we do it the old-fashioned way.
That's the spirit.
Because well, it's the way that it sounds good. You know, when you have bleed between instruments, when you have you have to have them somewhat isolated if you want to repair things, but it's the chemistry. That's another thing that maybe stopped us from recording, is that we weren't sure if it was going to be as good as we would like it to be, or I mean, is it sometimes just better to leave things alone?
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, you do have a legacy to consider, I guess, and
yeah, I mean, if you think about that, then you're really screwed.
right.
Then you can barely get up. You can get up in the morning and look at yourself and say, "How's it going, legend?"
Yeah, right.
The rest of the day is fucked because you're trying to live up to something. Yeah, I mean, it's easy to get up in your head, but your intuition and what your heart tells you is much more truthful.
Right, right.
So yeah, I mean the biggest difference, we started in 2019, probably February or January 2019, and worked on the three older songs that are on the record: the "I Got a Fever," "Delta 88," and "Cyrano," because we had an idea of how those should have sounded,
Right.
except that we wrote most of the words to "I Got a Fever." But we had an idea of what it was going to be like, and then when it sounded good and sounded right, and we did Angel on the Road at the same time, and they all sounded like us, and they had something that was a little different, a little outside of our sphere. Then Exene and I got very focused on writing new songs, and I was working on something else where I was away from home and had some downtime. So it was a perfect time to, I did Alphabetland and that song Free, but they changed a lot during the
Right.
rehearsal process. That's why Billy and DJ are credited with songwriting, even though Exene and I maybe originated, the song, the idea but if something didn't work, we just try something else. If chord changes for a verse didn't work, which happened at least 3 or 4 times, I can speak for myself.
Yes.
I got over myself and said, okay, this doesn't work. Why should I try to get a square peg into a round hole? Let's
Right.
just change it. And Billy might say, well, what if there was one less chord change?
Uh-huh.
And then we just work on it that way and change the melody accordingly. But maybe the choruses stay the same. Those things always evolve. And so, it was really collaborative and extremely rewarding, especially after we just kind of dropped it on our fans and they were surprised.
It was a surprise, that's for sure.
Well, we were planning on putting it out in August, and then Fat Possum, who has been really positive towards us and generous, they suggested we release it at when we did, right in the same week that Los Angeles, the LP was turning 40.
Yep.
And we thought, what the hell? I mean, why not? Because we didn't know what our tour plans were. We didn't know what the, pressing plants or printers or all that kind of stuff what was going to happen with that. So
yeah,
just did a punk rock style, put it on Bandcamp.
Now, you mentioned Los Angeles, the album. I'm holding up my copy of it right now, but you can't see me, I guess. But I've had it for 40 years. And
awesome.
And and it has this burning cross on the cover, which is
it's a burning X.
Oh, okay. Burning X, yes, cross. Of course it is.
Burning cross means something very different here.
That's true.
Yes. Let us be very clear about that.
That's true. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
But it kind of gives a vibe, kind of what's going on in the States in certain places at the moment as well, and which is kind of disturbing. And I don't know, do you have some opinions about what's going on in the States?
Of course I do. I mean, I'm a radical liberal.
Right.
And I think that there has been a reckoning coming in the United States and in most countries for years. Australia is a good example. And unless you have something like they had in South Africa, the Truth and Reconciliation, whatever that was called, it'll continue. And so, we all live on stolen land. And that was the way it was. In the old days, Native Americans stole from each other, and whoever was the boldest and the baddest won. But that time is over, supposedly.
Supposedly, yes.
I think until the U.S. owns their history and tries to make some sort of reparations with that, it's going to continue, and it's all based on bullshit. I mean, as soon as you learn anything about Native American history, you know how much bullshit you're being fed.
Right.
And the fact that up until a month ago, one of the states had a rebel battle flag on it. That wasn't even that well. That wasn't even that well used or that widely used during the Confederacy.
Right.
It became, So I I think apart from the pandemic, it's a great time for people to own their story,
Right.
and but that's going to be a while coming.
Yeah.
It's going to
Well, it's hard to undo all that stuff or get past it. I mean, it's ingrained in people's consciousnesses and ways of thinking for years and years. So it's not going to happen overnight,
It's
I
actually
guess.
not that hard. It's actually not that hard. It's just like be truthful and don't put your capitalistic
Yeah.
bullshit in front of everything else, which is, if you listen to Noam Chomsky or people like that, I mean,
Yep.
we are a one-party system that is the business party. And
Yeah.
it's all about business and corporations and bullshit like that.
Yep,
So
yep.
all the other stuff is a bunch of lies and fakery. So it's a drag. But I think that there are some things that are being addressed, and we're seeing something that is pretty frightening with the unmarked federal troops in
Yeah,
Portland.
definitely.
But that's that was like a birthday gift to the Democratic Party and the liberals. Oh my God, this is the best. It's the worst, but it's the best.
I hear you.
It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking, and it's really difficult to keep your chin up. It's difficult to, that's why I say I'm very grateful and fortunate, because I've got a house, I've got food, I've got money in the bank, and I've grown up with privilege. I'm a fairly decent looking white male, so
Yep.
I've got a lot of lumps. I've got a lot of lumps to take, and I'm willing to take it. And I'm just going to shut up, and people can, tell me what they need to tell me.
Yep. Yep. Well, that sounds reasonable. I can kind of relate myself. I consider myself a liberal of far left persuasion as well, but which leads me to kind of your collaboration, the way you work with Exene, because my understanding was that I don't know what her affiliations are these days, but she wasn't always. She was kind of leaning to the right a bit. So, and of course, you guys used to be married. So it's all that stuff coming together. How do you manage to establish a working relationship under those circumstances?
We don't talk about politics.
That's probably wise.
Yeah. I mean, we are soulmates, and when we play and when we're together, we can anticipate what the other person is going to do. When we're singing, there's sometimes a lot of nonverbal communication. So if Exene is more, it's not right leaning. It's more, just believing that it's all bullshit.
Right.
So it's just, I think that the one of the other problems that people are having is that they don't accept differences in opinion.
Right.
And it makes it difficult because there are there are a lot of lies that are put out, but there's also a lot of exaggeration that's put out from the left. So, like I said about the stuff in Portland being like a birthday gift.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just all fucked up, and I love her, and we'll be partners forever.
That sounds good. Now let's get talking about a couple of tracks on the album, if you don't mind. One of the ones I wanted to touch on was Star Chambered, which musically sounds to me like the old song Fortune Teller. And but it seems to be about choosing to be a musician, and I was wondering if that was a choice that you feel you made.
In the song or in life?
In life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems like a good gig. I mean,
yeah,
I like
right.
Up until recently, it was great. And again, I'm incredibly grateful that X had several years of recently of pretty lucrative touring, so I put my money in the bank.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm of a generation where, see, how old was I? I was 11 in 1964.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
that's what that's here. That's fifth grade.
Yeah. Well, I think you're like 2 years older than me then. That's all right.
There you go. Anyway, so seemed like a good gig, and I was always a bit of a ham, and
Mhm.
not in a cheesy way, but just in a way that I like performing for people. I could sing, and I liked singing, and you know, none of the punk rockers that I knew wanted to destroy music.
Right.
All we wanted to do was to get a little toehold in the and hopefully have a career.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well, it's the
and
same with the
so it
Ramones.
was,
The Ramones weren't destroying any. They were so ensconced in the '60s thing, and they just wanted to take it, do their version of it. I guess they weren't.
yeah. Well, we all thought that, until the Sex Pistols said that they wanted to destroy all music and fuck everybody and fuck you and told the press that they could go fuck themselves. And at that point, the press had a lot of power.
Yeah.
So the press said, "Oh, all right, fuck me? No, actually, I can fuck you a lot easier." And then punk rock was sort of ghettoized, except for songs that would fit into a, general kind of playlist like the Pretenders or Blondie,
Yeah.
which had great songs, or Elvis Costello, or even Nick Lowe at times.
Yep.
They all could fit in, but we were always just a little bit too weird, which is okay. I don't care. Sure, the Damned and the all the people that I look up to.
Yeah.
They just wanted to have their own version of rock and roll music, and we
Yep.
were all dedicated to reclaiming rock and roll because it had become safe and complacent. And not to say that there weren't people that were trying to push the envelope, but that's what we were doing, and I plead guilty for the chord changes on Fortune Teller. It was supposed to be much more on the beat, like da 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 da, and then Billy got a hold of it, and it became Fortune Teller, and that's okay.
Worst things could happen.
But it's I wish I could pull up the lyrics right now. Again, it's we have a lot of subject matter that or ideas that we return to, and some of those ideas are crisis and change, and in that, as I remember, it's about things changing very quickly,
Right.
and of course those are mostly Yaxine's words, but we on this record especially, since we didn't have months and months and years, a lot of the songs were written from, say, April until November of 2019. And then we recorded in January.
Mm-hmm.
So we were changing things right up to the last minute. But that I bet on odd till I turned even and until I had to go. Yeah, of course we bet on odd. We're we're being musicians, and that's very unstable, and if we wanted to make money, we'd be bankers and
Yeah, right.
lawyers and things like that. But we didn't have the attention or the determination or discipline to do that. So
Yeah.
I like the idea of working at night. I like the idea of not having to get up and serve somebody.
There you go. You got to serve somebody.
Well,
and I see
you have to serve yourself.
Yeah.
And so sometimes being the boss is a fucking bummer. And then you can't be mad at the boss and blame it on other people. You could only, blame it on yourself if you're.
This is true. This is true. So I see you got Robbie Krieger on the record.
Yes.
Which is I love the connection between you guys and the Doors, and obviously, you had Ray producing your first couple of records in there. So it's what was that session like when he came in?
It was great. I mean, Robbie and John Densmore and Exene and I have stayed in touch a little bit, Ray was a huge influence, and I still miss him.
Yeah.
So there were a couple of tribute things for the Doors recently, and I got to go up and be Jim Morrison for
Oh,
a
nice, man.
singing. What did I sing? Riders on the Storm
Oh, very cool.
and Roadhouse Blues. That actually, I got Exene to I got Exene to sing the greatest verse of Roadhouse Blues. Got up this morning, got myself a beer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it took on this incredible shift having a woman sing that. It was like, fuck yeah.
I got to hear that now.
And Exene is all about the future. She's all about, there's a line in that, all the time in the world, you can't decipher the past or predict the future,
Yep.
with history. So we've stayed in touch, and Robbie left a message on my voicemail saying something about getting passes to some event, and he obviously got the wrong number.
Right.
So I called him back to say, I hope that all worked out. And he said, oh my God, that's so crazy. And we asked each other what we were doing. And I said, we were finishing a record. And he said, oh, I should come down and play some slide, to which huge light bulb went off. And
Right.
it was great. I mean, he was just like Bobby Krieger, and he plays all that spooky, cool, weird shit.
Yep.
So-
Can't beat it, man. Is there a track on the record that particularly appeals to you, that stands out as a favorite?
Alphabetland.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of the most challenging, and that's it's the strangest of the songs, I think.
In what way?
That one. What's that?
In what way is it strange, do you think?
Oh, it just has it has a bunch of different parts but they don't really they move from one to the next, and at some point during rehearsal, Billy would get confused, so he would play a chorus part over a verse part, but somehow they still fit together. And so
Right.
at the end, he's playing and it was a faster, the chord changes are the same in the chorus, but we used to do it faster. So it's just, it's epic.
That's cool. Good way to start off the album.
Well, it's a bit we threw down the gauntlet a little bit.
Right.
I'd say, stick with us. And it's some sort of a redemption song, where something is wrecked and then it's stolen, and Exene, I think the lyrics were originally about, originally it was called Mercury, and Billy kept referring to it as Alphabetland.
Uh-huh.
And we would correct it, say, no, it's called Mercury. And then we changed it we finally just gave up and said, okay, it's Alphabetland. And then realized it was a great title for the record, and then got Wayne White, who's a terrific artist, to do the cover, because he does these word paintings that seem just like obvious. But anyway, the Mercury thing is like, is Mercury the creator, or is he the destroyer? Is he bringing gifts that are good or bad? And then we, kind of turned that over to Gilbert Trejo to make a video. And he and I just talked about, I said, well, you can't have the band performing, but I imagined Los Angeles being desolate, and so I wasn't thinking of a post-apocalyptic imagery, but something that was just really sparse. And he, said something about a love letter to L.A.
Right.
And then he took that a little more literally, and got some of the people from Starcrawler and Skating Polly, who are friends of ours, and made this kind of dreamlike story of X. Yeah.
Very good. Yeah.
Really choked me up when I first saw it.
speaking of the story of X, it reminds me, I believe I spoke to you about 3 years ago when you were nominated for a Grammy for your book that you wrote.
Yeah, that was fun.
I don't even know. Did you win or did you not?
No, Carol Burnett won.
Well, if you're going to lose to Carol Burnett, you know?
Damn her. But, you know, yeah, if you're going to lose to some genuine television icon.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was a trip, you know. It was fun.
And are you planning to pursue your writing career?
Mostly songs and poetry. Yes.
There you go.
I mean, I may do you know, we had this kind of volume 2 of that came out last year.
Yep.
2018. Fuck, I don't know. You know, who knows, man?
They just fly by, don't they?
I think it was, yeah. I'd have to look at it. Anyway, More Fun in the New World was the next 5 years. We're not going to do a third volume.
Right.
But I may do a memoir at some point. I've written several chapters of that, and
Cool.
got to kind of figure out what it means.
Right. Because I'm a East Coast guy. I moved here from Rochester, New York, and I made my
Nice.
pilgrimage to CBGBs to see the Ramones and you know,
Uh-huh.
Cramps and whatever. And so I remember when Los Angeles came out, to me, the idea of having a punk band in LA was like, what? Is that possible? You know, because we thought we had the corner on it. So,
Well, it was in the water, my friend.
yeah.
It was just time. And I tell you, especially now, but even back then, I would put our Skid Row up against any city. Desperation and decay.
Yeah.
But that was one of the reasons that we called the record Los Angeles. I mean, apart from the fact we had a song called that.
Yeah.
You know, people like Nathaniel West and Raymond Chandler and John Fante and Charles Bukowski and you know, Joan Didion to a degree.
Yep.
They didn't come from there for nothing. You know, Los Angeles is a beautiful, weird, fucked up place. And unfortunately, fortunately, whatever, gave us something to fight against in the you know, early and mid 70s. It had become very kind of plastic and
Yeah.
and unless you're in the pornography industry,
Very
John
plastic.
Holmes and the heyday of porno, I guess it was still pretty seedy, but you know, it's all what you make of it.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting how the music of the 70s, especially the very commercial music, like say ELO or stuff like that, has become very cool among youngsters these days. And you know, and I'm looking at this Supertramp album that some 23-year-old comes up to me. I go, really? Do you really want to hear that? Or listen to this instead, you know? But there you go.
Yeah. But there are other people whose, and maybe you're one of them. There are people whose musical taste I really respect, and then they love Neil Diamond, and I think, really?
Well, there's some good Neil Diamond out there. You know, Solitary Man is a great song. I'm sorry.
Okay. I'll defer. But, you know, at this point, I don't argue. I just say I don't get it.
Yeah, right. Fair enough.
I get the cramps. I really get the cramps. That was one of the greatest live and recorded bands ever.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of new bands nowadays that are really interesting and you know about Girls Rock Camp, right?
Yep.
Well, that started about 15 years ago. So some 9 or 10-year-old that was at Girls Rock Camp,
now they're doing it.
Now they're 25 and they're kicking ass. And
exactly. That's very cool. And unfortunately, we have to wrap this up soon because we're running out of time on Zoom, believe it or not.
Okay.
But I am thoroughly enjoying talking to you and thoroughly enjoying listening to this album. I can't wait to get it on vinyl so I can see the artwork as it should be, because that's part of what it's all about. So
it should be in your mailbox in couple of weeks. I
Excellent.
would say.
That sounds like a plan. And hopefully someday you and the band can come down to New Zealand and visit us and rock out.
Sure. I'd love to. You know, it's all time and money, Marty.
I hear you.
Like, do we have the time? Well, we do have the time right now, but yeah, I just hope we have a career when this is all over.
Yeah,
I mean,
I hope so too.
Being forgotten. I'm just afraid that you know, music. It'll be difficult to return to what it was. But,
Okay. Well, fingers crossed. And in the meantime, like an X.
yeah.
And thank you for everything that you've done up until now anyway. And hopefully there's plenty more.
Oh yeah. Well, you know, I'm doing a few Facebook Live concerts like every 2 or 3 weeks, and I don't use Facebook at all. I've just realized that people do, and so
Yeah.
I can stand in front of my altar and bookshelf and sing for an hour, and people pay me a little bit of money and have a good time, you know, so that's worth it.
Excellent. Well, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much for talking to me.
I will.
As you know, I've got somebody else waiting to talk to me as well. We met her briefly.
Yes, you have your whole day ahead of you now. So
I do indeed. It's not even 10 a.m. yet.
Oh yeah.
So,
all right, Marty.
So, well, thank you and have a nice time in Austin.
Will do. You do the same in Auckland.
All right. Bye-bye.